Good day, everyone. We are the Group 4, and today we're going to tackle the global divides. But first, let's talk about the objectives. First, explain the concept of the global north and global south and understand the global inequalities. Second, analyze the experience of overseas Filipino workers or the OFWs to illustrate the north-south divide. Third, describe regionalism and Asian as example of regional cooperation in Asia. Third, identify the factor and strategies that strengthen Asians' integration and responses to globalization. Now let's talk about the introduction of global divides. May I call Ms. Fernandez to discuss it?
So, good day everyone. I'm Maria Fernandez and let's now proceed on our topic, which is the global divides. So, globalization has caused uneven development across the world. Meaning, globalization ay yung pagiging interconnected ng mga bansa sa buong mundo through trade, technology, and culture ay nagdudulot ng uneven development. So, meaning hindi lahat ng bansa ay nagbe-benefit equally. Some countries like the US or Japan ay nagiging mas advanced in terms of technology and economy, habang others like sa Africa or Southeast Asia ay nahuhuli. For example, sa Pilipinas, globalization brings in foreign investments sa BPO industry pero hindi lahat ng regions ay naka-access. Kaya uneven yung development. Ito ay dahil sa globalization yung resources and opportunities ay hindi pantay na pinapamahagi na nagre-result ng may mga bansang mayaman and mahina. Then resulting in significant social, economic, and political imbalances. So dahil sa uneven development na to, may mga malaking imbalances or disparities na lumalabas sa social tulad ng education and health access, economic and political. Social imbalances means na sa rich countries, people have better schools and hospitals. Habang sa poor ones naman, maraming bata yung hindi nakakapag-aral or walang access sa clean water. Economic imbalances naman ay visible sa GDP differences. Example, US has high GDP, samantalang Philippines has lower, na nagiging dahilan ng poverty. While politically naman, it affects how governments make decisions. Rich countries influence global policies through organizations like IMF, habang poor ones ay dependent sa aid. So, countries are often classified as the global north or global south. Para ma-organize ang mga bansa, we classify them into global north and global south. Yung global north refers to developed countries sa northern hemisphere like Europe, North America, Australia, mga bansa na may high income, advanced technology, at stable economies. While yung Global South naman, on the other hand, ay ang mga developing or underdeveloped countries sa Southern Hemisphere, like Africa, Latin America, Asia, including Philippines. Mga lugar na may lower income, more challenges sa poverty, at less access to resources. So this classification helps us understand why there's uneven development. Global North ay usually the winners of globalization, while yung Global South ay yung the losers na nahihirapan sa debt or exploitation. Sa or even into first, second, and third worlds is yung another way to classify countries is into first, second, and third worlds na isang old term pero still used. Kapag first world ay yung mga industrialized, wealthy nations like US, UK, mga bansa na may strong economies at democracies. Yung second world naman ay yung mga communist or socialist coun- countries. ay isang old term pero still used. First world ay yung mga industrialized, wealthy nations like US, UK, mga bansa na may strong economies at democracies. Yung second world naman ay yung mga communist or socialist countries during Cold War era like Russia or China. Though China is now more first worldish, third world naman yung mga developing countries sa Asia, Africa, Latin America. Mga bansa na may high poverty, less infrastructure at dependence sa agriculture or raw materials. This classification shows the hierarchy. First world ay advanced, third world ay struggling na reflects how globalization favors na first world sa trade and investment. So, these divisions are visible in the daily realities of people. Ang mga divisions na to like Global North, South, or First, Second, Third World ay hindi lang abstract concepts. They are real sa everyday lives ng people. For instance, sa Global North, people enjoy high-speed internet, good jobs, and healthcare. Habang sa Global South, maraming tao yung naghihirap sa daily struggles like lack of electricity, unsafe water, or child labor. Next PPT po. So these countries usually have developing economies, limited labor protections, and fewer benefits from global systems compared to industrialized nations. Meaning may mga bansa na hindi pa fully developed yung kanilang economy. Ibig sabihin, limitado yung kanilang kita bilang bansa, mababa yung industrial output, and madalas nakadepende sila sa agriculture o simpleng manufacturing. Dahil dito, hindi rin gano'n kalakas yung kakayahan nilang protektahan ng kanilang mga manggagawa. Example, sa mga developing countries, marami pa rin workers yung nakakaranas ng mababang sahod, walang job security, and kulang sa benefits like health insurance or retirement plan. Hindi dahil ayaw ng governor, kundi dahil kulang sa resources and sa infrastructure para maipatupad yung mas mahigpit na labor standards. Bukod dito, fewer benefits from global systems means na kahit kasama sila sa global trade, investments, and international agreements, hindi sila nakakuha ng equal advantages kumpara sa mayayamang bansa. So, example, kapag may trade agreements, mas malakas ang bargaining power ng industrialized nations, kaya mas napapakinabangan nila yung global economy. So, these countries participate in the global system pero hindi sila equally rewarded dahil hindi pa ganun kalakas yung kanilang economy and labor protection mechanism. Countries facing economic, social, and political disadvantages, kapag sinabi natin economic disadvantage, ito ay about sa kahirapan tulad ng mataas na unemployment, mababang GDP, kakulangan sa investments, dependence sa foreign aid. Pag sinabing social disadvantage naman, kasama dito yung mataas na inequality like mayaman versus mahirap gap, kulang sa access sa quality education, healthcare na hindi kayang tugunan yung population needs, malnutrition, child labor, and iba pang social issues. Plus, political disadvantage naman ay yung mga makikita sa mga unstable governments, corruption, coup attempts, o conflicts, mahinang justice system. So, yung tatlong disadvantages na to, economic, social, political, ay nag-uugat sa isa't isa. Kapag mahina yung economy, naapektuhan yung social services. Kapag problematic naman yung politika, nababawasan yung investments. At kapag kulang sa social stability, bumabagal yung economic development. Mostly in Africa, Latin America, Asia, Middle East. So, bakit kadalasan sa mga bansang to? Kasi historically, maraming factors yung naka-affect sa kanila tulad ng colonization. Maraming bansang sinakop noon kaya nabansot yung kanilang sariling economic development. Resource exploitation. Mayaman sila sa natural resources pero hindi sila yung pinakamalaking nakinabang. Political instability. May mga civil wars and territorial conflicts na pumipigil sa progress. External debt. Mataas yung utang kaya napupunta sa debt repayment yung budget. Unequal global trade system. Mas pinapaboran yung industrialized nations sa presyo and access sa markets. So, these regions have great potential Pero marami ring historical and structural obstacles na nagiging dahilan kung bakit sila classified under developing or disadvantaged countries. Let's now proceed on the next reporter po.
Thank you, Ms. Fernandez. Good day, everyone. I'm Samantha May Obia. So now I'm discussing the next part. Next slide po. So next, experiences of OFWs and the North-South Divide. Ang karanasan ng mga overseas Filipino workers is isang konkretong halimbawa ng North-South Divide. It refers sa malaking pagkakaiba sa economic development at opportunities sa pagitan ng mga developed countries, North, at developing countries, South. Many OFWs choose to work in countries like the United States, Europe, Japan, and Australia because these nations offer higher salaries, better facilities, and more stable economies. Kahit mas mataas ang kanilang kita abroad, hindi ibig sabihin is madali ang kanilang buhay doon. Marami pa rin silang kinakaharap na challenges. For example nilang high cost of living. Even if they earn more, a large portion is napupunta lang sa rent, food, and daily expenses abroad. Ipinapakita nito na kahit may better economic opportunities sa developed nations, hindi pa rin pantay ang access ng OFW sa long-term stability, social protection, at equal rights compare sa citizens ng mga bansang iyon. This reveals how the North-South divide continues to affect people from developing countries who most migrate to wealthier nations for survival but still face inequalities once they get there. Ang mga karanasan ng OFW is nagpapakita ng global inequality is real. May mas maraming opportunity sa North, pero hindi pa rin ganap na pantay ang buhay at security na nararanasan ng mga manggagawa mula sa South. Next slide po. So next, history and roots of the Global South. First one, colonization. So, colonization is malaking dahilan kung bakit may malalim na pagkakaiba sa political at economic development ng Global South compare sa Global North. Most countries in the Global South were colonized by European powers tulad ng Spain, Portugal, France at Britain. Dahil dito nabago ang sistema ng pamahalaan, economic, culture at maging ang social structure ng maraming bansa. Isang malinaw na halimbawa nito is ang Latin America na matagal na nasakop ng Spain. Spanish rule reshaped their language, religion, land opportunities, and government systems. Bukod dito, mahalaga ring banggitin ang Treaty of Tordesillas 1494, isang kasunduan sa pagitan ng Spain at Portugal na naghati sa mundo para sa kanilang colonization. Dahil sa treaty na ito, maraming territory sa South America at iba pang bahagi ng mundo ang napunta sa kanilang kontrol. Ipinapakita ng kasaysayan na ang colonization ang naglagay ng maraming bansa sa Global South sa posisyong may kahinaan sa economic growth at political stability. These colonial roots continue to influence their development today, kaya hanggang ngayon ramdam pa rin ang epekto ng pagkakasakop sa kanilang kaunlaran. Number 2, ang global power relations ay tumutukoy sa hatian ng kapangyarihan sa pagitan ng malalakas at mahihina na bansa. This division has existed for centuries at kahit nagbago ang panahon, nananatili pa rin ang epekto nito sa kung paano gumagana ang mundo ngayon, lalo na sa trade, labor at development. Ang powerful countries is kadalasan mga developed nations may mas malaking control sa international markets, rules, at decision-making sa global organizations tulad ng World Bank at IMF. Dahil dito, they can set terms that benefit their own economies, samantalang ang less powerful countries, karamihan na sa Global South, ay madalas na sumusunod o umaasa lang sa mga bansang mas may impluensya. Sa trade, mas malaki ang kita ng rich nations dahil sila ang nagpa-process at nagbibenta ng high-value goods, habang ang developing countries ay kadalasang nag-export lamang ng raw materials na bababa ang presyo. Sa labor, sila rin ang nakikinabang sa murang workforce mula sa mas mahirap na countries. Sa development, mas mabilis ang pag-unlad ng mga bansang may historical power habang ang iba ay patuloy na naghahabol. These modern inequalities are reminders of the long history of imbalance, na kahit tapos na ang colonization, dala pa rin ng mundo ang sistemang pabor sa mayayamang bansa. Sa madaling salita, ang history ng power imbalance noon is siya ring dahilan ng inequality na nararanasan ng mundo ngayon. For the last, number 3, ang core, semi-periphery at periphery structure is bahagi ng world system theory na nagpapakita kung paano nahahati ang mga bansa batay sa kanilang economic power at level of development. Hanggang ngayon, makikita na rin natin ang historical patterns of inequality sa pagkakahating ito. Number 1, core countries. Ito ang mga highly developed countries tulad ng United States, Japan, Germany, at France. They have strong economies, advanced technology, powerful institutions, and control global trade and production. Sila ang nakikinabang ng husto sa global system dahil sila ang nagpa-process ng high-value goods at may malaking political influence. Sa semi-periphery naman, ito ang mga bansang nasa gitnang antas ng development tulad ng China, Brazil, Mexico, India, at minsan is Philippines. These countries have growing industries but still face internal inequality, unstoppable institutions, and economic dependency on core nation. Nasa transition sila na rich or poor, kaya tinatawag na buffer zone sa pagitan ng core at periphery. Last, periphery countries, kasama dito ang mga bansang may mababang income, weak institutions, at dependent sa export ng raw materials such as Pakistan at ilang countries ng Sub-Saharan Africa. They experience high poverty, limited technology, and strong dependence on poor countries. Madalas, sila ang supplier ng cheap labor at basic resources. Overall, ipinapakita ng structure na ito na global inequality did not disappear. Sa halip, today's world classifications still mirror the effects of colonization, historical of exploitation, and uneven economic growth. Mas nakikinabang pa rin ang core countries habang patuloy na lumalaban ang semi-periphery at periphery nations para makahabol sa development. In short, the world system today reflects old patterns. May mga bansang sobrang mayaman, may nasa gitna lang, at may pinaka-apektado ng global inequality. That's all my part. May I call on Miss Danica Hamera to continue.
I'm Danica Hamera. I'll be discussing about the Global North. So, yung Global North po, tinatawag itong group of countries na highly developed, mayaman, at advanced pagdating sa technology at economy. Yes po. Kasama dito ang G8 countries like US, Canada, UK, Germany, France, Italy, Japan at Russia. Pati na rin ang Australia, New Zealand at iba pa advanced Asian countries. So ang mga bansang ito ay may strong institutions, meaning maayos ang government system, system nila, efficient and ang justice system at stable ang economy. So mataas ang labor standards, maganda ang sahod at may access sa modern technology ang karamihan ng tao. So dahil dito, malaki ang influence nila sa global politics, economy at technology. Sila ang nagsaset ng global trends, global rules at madalas may final say sa importante international decisions. Kaya't natawag silang powerhouse nations. So, example of global nerd countries naman po sa United States, leader in technology and military influence. Sa Japan naman, advanced in robotics and innovation. Sa Germany naman, strong economy and manufacturing power. Canada, highly living standards. And the last one po, Australia and New Zealand, stable and advanced societies. Next po. Next naman, merong the Global South within developed countries. Pero kahit gaano kayaman at ka-advance ang mga bansang ito, hindi ibig sabihin lahat ng tao sa loob nila ay privileged or developed. Meron pa ring mga grupo na nagkakaroon ng poverty, discrimination, inequality, or limited access to opportunities. Ito ang tinatawag na Global South within developed countries. Ibig sabihin, may mga pockets of poverty o marginalized communities kahit nasa loob sila ng rich and developed nations. Kahit nasa rich countries sila, may mabahagi pa rin ng population na socially or economically disadvantaged. So ito yung papakita na hindi pantay-pantay ang development kahit sa loob ng pinaka-advanced na bansa. So in short po, sa Global North, ito yung mga mayayaman at advanced na bansa na may malaking global influence. Sa Global South within developed countries naman, ito naman yung marginalized or disadvantaged groups kahit nasa loob ng developed country. May I call Kathy po to continue the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hamera. Good day, everyone. I am Sabria Ekape, and today I will be discussing Asian regionalism and Global South versus Third World, and kung paano sila connected sa globalization and development ng mga bansa, lalo na sa Asia. First, let's talk about Global South versus Third World. Madalas na napapagpalit o napapagkamala na pareho lamang ang meaning ng dalawang ito. Pero meron silang malaking difference. Unahin na natin ang Global South. The term Global South is a modern term and updated term na ginagamit ngayon sa mga academic discussions. Hindi lang siya label, kundi isa itong social, economic, and political inequalities. Kapag sinabi nating Global South, tumutukoy ito sa developing countries mostly found in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Middle East. Ang mahalaga dito is hindi lang sila tinatawag na may hirap na bansa, kundi tinitingnan yung issues na naranasan ng mga mamamayan dito. Example nito ay poverty, poor labor conditions, limited access to technology, and inequality sa education at healthcare. Ginagamit ang term na Global South kapag pinag-uusapan ang globalization, inequality, at development. Ang term na to ay mas ginagamit ngayon dahil mas respectful siya pakinggan at mas accurate siya kasi ina-acknowledge nito ang problema ay nasa sistema ng bansa at nasa history, hindi lang dahil mahina ang isang bansa o ang mga mamamayan nito. Next is Third World. Ang Third World ay old Cold War term na ginagamit dati para i-classify ang mga bansa na hindi aligned sa US or first world countries or sa Soviet Union or sa second world countries. So, ang basis nito ay political alignment naman, hindi economic development. Over time, nagiging negative ang dating ng third world country. Madalas kasi ginagamit siya para ilarawan ang kahirapan or underdevelopment at problems ng isang bansa in a degrading way. Dahil dito, considered na outdated na ang term at hindi na ginagamit sa modern academic or global development discussions. Mas pinipili na ngayon ang term na Global South kasi mas sensitive at mas makakabulhan ito. Now, let's proceed to Asian regionalism. Kapag sinabi naman natin na Asian regionalism, ang ibig sabihin naman ito ay pagtutulungan ng mga bansa sa Asia para harapin ang mga challenges na dala ng globalization at global divides. Sa panahon ngayon, hindi na kayang mag-survive ng isang bansa ng mag-isa lang. Dahil sa globalization, connected na ang economies, politics, cultures ng iba't ibang bansa. Kaya dito pumapasok ang Asian regionalism. Asian regionalism highlights how Asian countries cooperate. Instead na kanya-kanya, nagkakaroon sila ng regional strategies. Ibig sabihin, sabay-sabay nagpaplano kung paano palakasin ang ekonomiya, security at relationship ng isa't isa or ng iba't ibang bansa. For example, economic integration. Kapag nag-integrate ang economies, mas nagiging madali ang trade, investments, at movement ng goods and services na ino-offer ng isang bansa. This helps smaller or developing countries na makasabay sa global competition. Another important part is responding to global pressures collectively. Halimbawa, kapag may global economic crisis, climate change issues, or even political tensions, mas may boses ang Asia kapag sama-sama silang nagsasalita or nagsi-speak up tungkol sa mga issues. A good example of Asian regionalism is ASEAN. ASEAN shows kung paano nagko-collaborate ang Asian countries politically, economically, and culturally. Politically, nagko-collaborate ang mga Asian countries kapag nag-uusap sila para maiwasan ang mga conflicts between countries or towards each other. Next naman ay economically dahil sa mga trade agreements para mapalago ang mga negosyo sa mga countries na makakatulong din in general. Next is culturally. Pinapahalagahan ang diversity ng bawat bansa pero makikita na may shared Asian identity na sa kada bansa. So in short, Asian regionalism strengthens the region. Mas nagiging stable, competitive, at united ang Asia sa harap ng globalization. So, paano nag-connect ang Asian regionalism at Global South? Dahil maraming Asian countries ang parte ng Global South, dahil dito ang Asian regionalism becomes a tool para labanan ng inequality and underdevelopment. Through regional cooperation, mas nagkakaroon ng pagkakataon ang mga bansa sa Global South na palakasin ang ekonomiya nila, magkaroon ng collective voice sa global issues, mabawasan ang gap sa pagitan ng developed at developing countries. In short, Asian regionalism helps Global South countries in Asia to rise together instead na maiwan sa ilalim ng global system. To conclude, Asian regionalism shows the power of unity among Asian countries in facing globalization. While Global South is a modern concept that explains inequality and development issues more accurately compared to the outdated term, which is Third World. By understanding these concepts, mas maintindihan natin kung bakit mahalaga ang cooperation, respect, and shared responsibility sa global community. And that's all for my presentation. Let's proceed to next presenter, Miss Yaga. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Kape. Good day, everyone. I'm Jamila Ojen Eliago, and I'll be the one who's going to discuss the Asian's global influence. Asia is home to over two-thirds of the world's population and has some of the fastest growing economies, countries like China, Japan, and Singapore play major roles in global trades, technology, and culture. The rising economic and political influence of Asia encouraged global powers, including the United States and European nations, to seek stronger partnership with Asian states. So, Asia today is considered one of the most powerful and influential regions in the world. Dahil sa laki ng population, economic strength, and technological growth, maraming bansa ang nakatingin ngayon sa Asia as a global leader. With the billions of people, Asia has a massive workforce and enormous consumer market. This alone makes global companies and investors very interested in building strong economic relationship with Asian country. Like for example is like China, Japan, and South Korea play huge roles in global technology. China is known for being one of the largest producer and exporters, and sa Japan naman is kilala sila bilang sa paggawa ng mga robotics and yung mga advanced na gamit. And sa South Korea naman, kilala sila for high-tech and electronics and smartphones. Kaya kapag may bagong tech or something technology sa Asia, mabilis itong kumalat worldwide. For example, when people talk about Koreans' latest smartphones, everyone highlights the advanced features, especially the camera quality and design. This shows how Asian innovation influenced global standards. And also, Asia shapes culture trends across the world. Like tulad ng K-pop, anime, Asian skincare, Asian foods, and even sa fashion. All influence global entertainment and lifestyle. People all over the world follows Asia's show like yung K-dramas, C-dramas, Japanese dramas, and musics like K-pop or mga kanta ng Filipino na sumisikat sa other country. And also yung beauty routines and even the streetwears. This culture spread makes Asia not just economic leader but a trendsetters. So when it comes to politics, Asian countries hold powerful positions. Nations in the West depend on Asia for trade, resources, and political cooperation. Major decision in global diplomacy often involves Asian states because of their economic and strategic importance. Asia is no longer just a region. It is a major force shaping the future of the world. So after that, let's discuss the globalization and regionalization. So first, globalization, worldwide integration. Globalization involves worldwide integration. Ibig sabihin, countries around the world are no longer isolated. Instead, they form one global network where the decision in one country can affect the entire world. This happens through communication, culture, trade, and technology. Dahil dito, mas mabilis kumakalat ang development at trends sa buong mundo. Second is the countries become interconnected. Under globalization, countries become interconnected. Hindi na pwedeng gumalaw ang isang bansa ng mag-isa lang because their economies and industries are linked. For example, a phone can be designed sa Korea, tapos yung paggawa or yung pag-assemble is sa Vietnam, and mabibenta mo siya kahit saan. So, ibig sabihin, every country depends on other for materials, products, and service. Third is the movement of goods, peoples, ideas, and technology. One major characteristic of globalization is the movements of goods, people, ideas, and technology. Product move across borders. People migrate or travel easily. Ideas spread instantly through social media. Technology becomes global. Kaya, ating mga Filipino ay mostly gumagamit na ng Korean phones, Japanese appliances, American apps, at kung ano pa. Next is the borderless interaction. Globalization promotes borderless interaction. Kahit may physical borders ang country, hindi na sila hadlang sa pag-communicate or yung pag-business. Kasi through internet and fast transportation, parang lumiliit ang mundo. People and companies interact globally as if their border doesn't matter. Last for the globalization is affect of the whole world is not just one region. Lastly, globalization affects the whole world, not just one region. Ang apekto niya ay ang effect niya is worldwide. Economy, politics, education, culture, and technology. And sometimes, in one part of the world, it can influence other countries. Kung may mangyari ba or may sikat na trend sa ibang bansa, automatic may influence yung other country like yung K-pop na influencean tayo ng mga Koreano for K-pop. Kaya itong bansa natin is mahilig na rin sa K-pop. Ganito kalawak ang impact ng globalization. So, next is the regionalization. First of regionalization is integration within the specific region. Regionalization focuses on integration within the specific region. Instead of connecting with the entire world, countries work closely with their neighbors. Halimbawa, sa ASEAN, is made of Southeast Asia. Asian country that cooperate in trade, tourism, security, and regional development. Next is the countries cooperate based on proximity. In regionalization, countries cooperate because they are near each other. Since they share borders or are geographical close, mas madali silang magtulungan. They often face the same issues like climate, trade routes, and regional conflicts, making cooperation practical and necessary. Third is shared culture, politics, or economic interests. Regionalization happens because member countries have shared culture, politics, or economic interests. For example, ang ASEAN countries may similarity cultural traits, food, climate, and tradition. Because they have similarities, it's easier for them to agree on policy and program. Fourth, more focused and limited than globalization. Compared to globalization, regionalization is more focused and limited. It doesn't aim to connect the whole world, only nearby countries. Mas maliit ang sakop nila pero mas malalim ang cooperation. create specific agreements that fit the region's needs. Last is example of ASEAN, EU on NAFTA. Example including ASEAN, EU which is European Union, and NAFTA or mas tinatawag na USMCA. This group strengthen economic partnerships, improve regional security, promote culture exchange, and support movement of people, goods, and service within the region. So overall, globalization connects to the whole world, creating global network in trade, culture, and technology. It is a wide, diverse, and borderless. Sa regionalization naman, it connects countries with the same region. It is more limited but more focused. And cooperation is easier because members share similarity. So to simplify it, globalization is yung buong mundo. And yung regionalization naman is magkapit-bahay. And that's all for my part. And may I call Miss Sagsagat for continue the discussion.
So, I am Jenny Sigsagat, and today I will be discussing the topic regionalism. In this presentation, I will explain what regionalism is, why it exists, and why it is important in understanding cooperation among countries, especially in Asia. What is regionalism? Regionalism is basically a deeper and more organized form of cooperation between countries within the same region. While regionalization happens naturally dahil magkakalapit sila geographically or culturally. Regionalism naman is intentional and formal, supported by agreements, shared policies, and coordinated economic or political programs. It involves structured partnership where member countries actively work together para mas maging secure ang region, mas stable ang economy, and mas magpatibay ang cultural ties. So in Asia, a clear example of regionalism is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or yung ASEAN, so which promotes unity, peace, and sustainable development across its member states. Beyond ASEAN, meron din tayong ASEAN Plus 3, a partnership with China, Japan, and South Korea. So this expanded cooperation was formed mainly to address issues revealed during the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Through this alliance, countries shared resources, aligned economic strategies, and supported each other para makarecover and maiwasan ng future financial instability. In other words, ASEAN made regionalism more concrete and functional sa Asian region by creating a system that encourages long-term solidarity and resilience. Globally, other regions also use regionalism to boost competitiveness and stability. For example, in North America, countries formed the North American Free Trade Agreement o yung NAFTA, originally involving Canada and United States, which later included Mexico. The purpose of NAFTA was to lower trading costs, encourage business investments, and make North America more competitive in the global market. This shows that countries create regional groups not only for political peace or cultural connection but also for strategic economic advancement. In simpler terms, regionalism allows nations to face challenges together and mas madali nilang ma-achieve ang shared goals dahil may formal system sila that support cooperation, trust, and mutual progress. Through these alliances, regions become stronger, more unified, and better prepared to handle global pressure. Next, let's talk about ASEAN as a model of Asian regionalism. Ang ASEAN ay isang magandang example ng successful na regional cooperation dito sa Asia. Basically, it shows kung paano pwede mag-collaborate ang mga bansa sa region para sa political security, economic development, and social-cultural ties. So, habang nire-respeto pa rin yung kanilang national sovereignty. Through initiatives like ASEAN Plus 3 na kasama ang China, Japan, and South Korea, mas nagiging organized ang region sa pag-handle ng financial crisis, trade issues, and overall regional stability compared sa ibang parts ng mundo tulad ng European Union o yung EU na mostly political and economic union para sa free movement ng people, goods, services, and capital sa kanilang single market. Ang ASEAN naman are more flexible and adaptive sa diversity ng Asia. Isa sa mga factors kung bakit mas nagiging integrated ang Asia ay dahil market-driven ito. Ibig sabihin, maraming exchanges ang nangyayari because of business opportunities and economic needs. Halimbawa, emerging economies sa Japan, China, and South Korea, and iba pang Asian countries is kumukuha sila ng skilled labor services galing sa Filipino. Same time, ang Southeast Asian countries naman is nagmamarket ng kanilang goods within the region. So, Thailand export grocery products sa mga convenience stores, habang ang Vietnam and Indonesia naman is nagsisell ng bags and clothes, locally and regionally. Although ang government collaboration is relatively late kumpara sa market forces, recent years have seen more teamwork among Asian governments, kahit may certain distance pa rin sa coordination. So overall, ASEAN serve as a model kung paano pwede mag-work together ang diverse countries in Asia for mutual growth, stability, and cultural exchange. And that ends my discussion about regionalism. To continue our topic, the next reporting will be presented by Ms. Pahe.
So, good day. Thank you, Ms. Sagsagat. So, good day, everyone. I'm Jasmine Pahe. Now, I'll be discussing the factors that strengthen Asian integration. So, Asian integration is strengthened by market-driven exchange, formal institutions such as the Asian Development Bank, development programs for organizations like JICA, and cooperative mechanisms including the Chiang Mai Initiative and Asian Bond Markets Initiative. So, Asian integrations daw ay mas napapalakas dahil sa iba't ibang factors na nagtutulungan para mas maging connected yung mga bansa sa Asia, lalo na sa aspects ng economics and politics. And first, may tinatawag tayo na market-driven exchange. So, ibig sabihin nito, natural na nagkakaroon ng palitan ng goods, services, investment, yung mga bansa sa Asia dahil sa trade and sa negosyo. So, for example, yung Pilipinas is nag-export ng electronic products sa ibang Asian countries like Japan or South Korea, habang tayo naman na Pilipinas ay nag-import ng sasakyan at technology mula sa kanila. So second, mahalaga rin yung formal institution gaya ng Asian Development Bank or ADB. So ang ADB ay tumutulong sa mga bansa sa Asia sa pamamagitan ng loans at projects para sa infrastructure, education at poverty reduction. So for example, yung ADB ay nagbibigay siya ng pondo para sa paggawa ng kalsada at transport systems sa Pilipinas, and nakakatulong siya sa economic development. So third, may mga development programs mula sa mga organisasyon tulad ng JICA or the Japan International Cooperation Agency. So, yung GICA naman is nagbibigay ng technical assistance, training, and grants. So, for example, um, maraming Filipino engineers at government workers yung nakakatanggap ng training sa Japan para mapabuti yung public services nila dito sa bansa. So last, may mga cooperative mechanisms tulad ng Chiang Mai Initiative at Asian Bond Markets Initiative. So yung Chiang Mai Initiative is isang kasunduan ng mga Asian countries para magtulungan kapag may financial crisis and yung Asian Bond Markets Initiative naman is yung naglalayong palakasin yung financial market sa Asia para hindi masyadong umasa sa Western countries. So, sa kabuuan nun, yung mga factors na yon is nakakatulong para mabawasan yung global divides dahil pinapalakas nila yung cooperation ng mga Asian countries. So, sa halip na umasa lang sila sa Western nations, mas nagiging independent at united ang Asia pagdating sa economics at politics. And next slide po. So next is Asian responses to globalization. So Asian countries respond to globalization in multiple ways. Large regional institutions like ADB and ASEAN promote development and cooperation, while smaller groups from bilateral and multilateral agreements for trade and security. So, dito sa Asian responses to globalizations, yung mga bansa naman sa Asia is tumutugon sila sa globalization sa iba't ibang paraan. So, depende sa kanilang pangangailangan at syempre sa kakayahan nila. So, isa sa mga responses is yung pagbuo ng regional institution tulad ng Asian Development or yung ADB nga at the Association of Southeast Asian Nation or ASEAN and nagpo-promote ng cooperation at development sa region. So example, yung ASEAN ay tumutulong sa pagpapalakas ng trade sa Southeast Asia habang yung ADB naman or Asian Development Bank naman is nagbibigay ng pondo para sa infrastructure at development projects sa mga developing country tulad ng Pilipinas. So, bukod sa malaking institution, may mga bansa rin sa Asia na pumapasok sa bilateral at multilateral agreements para sa trade at security. So, sa pamamagitan ng kasunduang yon, mas napapadali yung palitan ng product, the service, and yung investment. So, example is yung trade agreements ng Pilipinas sa Japan at South Korea ay nakakatulong sa pagdami ng exports at job opportunities sa bansa. And hindi lang daw sa national level natin makikita yung response sa globalization, kundi pati sa local communities. And may mga community na nagde-develop ng alternative economic system tulad ng cooperatives at local markets upang mas maging self-sufficient. And for example, yung ilang rural communities ay mas pinipili nila yung locally produced goods at sustainable farming para hindi sila masyadong umasa sa mga imported products. So kasabay nun, pinapahalagahan din ng maraming Asian communities ang preservation ng culture at traditions. Siyempre, kahit exposed sa Western influences dahil sa globalization, patuloy pa rin nilang sinasagawa yung mga local na festivals, traditional na art, and yung cultural practice bilang paraan ng pagpapanatili ng sariling identity. That's all for my part. So, to end our report, global divides shows us that even though the world is more connected because of globalization, hindi pa rin pantay yung experiences ng bawat bansa at community. In Asia, we can see different responses to regional cooperation like ASEAN, trade agreements, and even local community efforts to reduce these gaps. So, these actions show that globalization is not just about being connected, but about how countries choose to adapt and work together. And with that, that ends our report on global divides. Thank you.